Welcome back to my channel, Ragamuffins. I'm Raggy, and today I am bringing you another tier list in which I'm going to be going through all of the pseudo legendaries from Gens 1 through to Gen 8 from Pokemon. So, sorry if you're waiting on me to rate the one from Gen 9, but I don't make the tier lists, I just work with what I'm given. So, if you want me to give my opinions on that one, then leave your comments, I guess. I'll see what I can't do later. I'll do like a big compilation or something. I'll go through all the stuff where I need to update information. But in any case, ratings from S through to D, I'm going to be looking at all of the pseudo-legendaries from Gens 1 through to 8 and giving my opinions just on any old reason, which ones I like, which ones I don't like. And if you don't know what a pseudo-legendary is, and you can't just see from looking, I'll explain. A pseudo-legendary, there are some in every gen of Pokemon, and a pseudo-legendary is characterized as being very high in base stats, and pretty much that's it. No, the idea is that they are usually banned from competitive tournaments. They will have incredibly high base stats and are usually very, very difficult to acquire, especially early game. So I've got a whole bunch here. We're just going to get straight into it, just for any old reason in the order that we see them, which ones are my favorites. So, starting off, we have Dratini, and it's going to be kind of a different rating for each stage of evolution, right? Because you've got like the first stage, middle stage, and then their final form. So I'm just gonna, like any old reason, you're gonna have to work with me on this one. Anyways, Dratini, I'm gonna say Dratini gets an A, if only because I legitimately hatched a shiny Dratini back in the days of Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. I have a legitimate shiny Dratini, and I'm so proud of it. And I wasn't even looking when it hatched. I was watching TV, and then I looked down, and I was like, it's pink purple. It's that color. It's the color that it is. Anyways, if only for that reason, I kind of rate Dratini quite highly. I'm quite proud of it. Then we have Dragonair, and I'm going to say also an A, if only because he is the obvious progression from Dratini. It looks good. I like it. There's not much. I don't think anyone dislikes Dragonair. You know, in fact, Dragonair is possibly one of the most overlooked of the pseudo-legendary Pokemon, I guess you could say. But I like it. I especially like his wing ear things. That's cool. Dragonite, on the other hand, now, you want to look up non-progressive evolution of them. By that I mean an evolutionary stage that does not suit the one that came before. Dragonite is the definition of that, as you can see, because he's meant to come after Dragonair. Yeah. I'm going to put Dragonite in a B. As the first, fully evolved pseudo-legendary Pokemon, I can't rate him too poorly, because aesthetically, he is obviously something to talk about. He obviously has some stats behind him, and to this day, he is still competitively viable, albeit maybe a little predictable, but 9 gens in, that will happen. So yeah, I like the other two a little more than Dragonite. There you go. Like if you agree. Then we have Larvitar, and Larvitar, the last time I played through Pokemon Gold and Silver, I actually tried to train a Larvitar, but this is standard for pretty much all of these guys, is you catch them way too late in the game to make it really viable. I thought I would train up a Larvitar and get myself a Tyranitar before I went and I fought Red at the top of Mount Silver, but it never happened, because it just takes so long from that point in the game. But, aesthetically and everything, I think he's kind of boring. He's not very interesting to me. I might have liked him more if I had stuck to training him, because that's how it works, right? You train a Pokemon, you use it in your playthrough of a game, and you just end up loving them. Pupitar, I actually like him a bit more, if only because, I know Gen 2 is pretty early in the series, but we already had, Metapod and Kakuna, and then you were introduced in Gen 2, quite late in Gen 2, to Pupitar, who was, essentially the same thing. He was, a cocoon Pokemon, evolved from something small and green, I guess. But differently, this guy actually evolves into a powerhouse, where previously we had Metapod into Butterfree, Kakuna into Beedrill. This is a whole different bag of worms, and I don't think anyone was expecting Tyranitar to come out. And I'm going to put Tyranitar in B section. Tyranitar, same stuff. The thing is that pretty much all of these Pokemon, when they are fully evolved, are going to be rated as, competitively viable, and that's just going to be a thing till the end of time. As far as Tyranitar is concerned, he's not my favorite. He did get a Mega Form. That wasn't my favorite. I feel like they could have done something a little more interesting. His typing has always confused me, because, what is he, a Rock Ground? And then when he becomes Tyranitar, he becomes, Rock Dark. It's very, I don't see the angle, so sorry, Tyranitar. Then we have Bagon, and I understand that Bagon might be the most loved on this list, possibly by a lot of people. Gen 3, I know that Bagon was quite popular. And that makes sense because he ultimately turns into Salamence. But for Bagon, I'm going to just rate him a B. The thing about Bagon is I remember the first time I encountered it, aesthetically it did not look like something that would evolve into like what was the pseudo-legendary of the game. And by that I mean one of. Because there were actually 2 in Gen 3. But I'll get into that in a little bit. But Bagon, I just thought he was going to be just another run-of-the-mill. There you go. Shelgon. Okay, again, similar to Pupitar, and Metapod, and Kakuna, we had Shelgon, but in a whole different way. And I'm going to rate this guy as a B as well. I like that he had his little legs, and he just, aesthetically, it was kind of like, what is going on with this guy, right? You wouldn't expect from this that he was going to actually turn into Salamence. I would have expected him to turn into something much more defensive, but surprise, we have Salamence, and I'm going to actually put Salamence up into A section. Salamence is far from one of my favorites, but I think that he has a very good design. I like his colors. He matches a Lure Ball, which is not really, you know, suitable for him because he's not even a water type, but I like his colors. I like that color combination, and his typing, and his stats, everything. Like, there's just not a lot to dislike about Salamence. His Mega Form, kind of a miss for me, again, and that might be a recurring theme here, we'll see. Then we have Beldum. Beldum, I'm going to put in C, because if this, like, okay, the same could be said of most of them in their first stage, but if this guy didn't evolve, if you didn't know any better, I would think this thing was absolutely boring as hell. It's an eye on a stick, like a metal stick. I don't know, he's confusing. And then he evolves, and it's like, I believe the idea, the rationale is supposed to be that 2 Beldum fuse together and become Metang. And Metang, I'm actually going to put in A section. Now, Metang is... you could actually play through the game without evolving Metang, and you would be fine. Metang is stat-wise good enough to take you through pretty much the whole game, and that's all you need to know, really. But then he evolves again, and we do get Metagross. And Metagross is going to go up into S section. Metagross is the first on this list who reaches the S section, because this guy, I would argue, is quite possibly the perfect pseudo-legendary Pokemon. He is incredibly powerful. He is used by the leader of the Elite Four, the champion, that is Wallace? 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 Is it Wallace? I don't remember. He's used by the champion of the Elite Four. He is incredibly powerful. His stats are catastrophic, both offensively and defensively. You really have to know what you're coming at against this guy. The last time, when I played through Omega Ruby, most recently, I almost lost to Metagross, and it's like, I don't usually, like, lose at the end of the game. Like, not to big note myself, but, like, I'm usually better prepared. But this literally came down to the wire. It was like, if I missed my attack, I would have lost, and I'd have had to do it all over again. But it didn't go that way, so I'm pretty happy with it. On that note, Metagross probably gets possibly the best Mega Evolution in the whole game. Arguable. I would say it is arguable, and I don't think anyone is going to argue with that. Moving right along, we have Gible. And Gible? I like Gible. I'm going to give Gible an A. He's just cute. He is perfectly just a little sand shark, and you can see that in his design. As far as, like, Gible might have the best design of all of the unevolved pseudo-legendaries, for sure. And then he turns into Gabite, and I'm just going to keep him up there in the A section. Gabite, he, similar story to Metang, you wouldn't have to evolve this guy to have a easy time getting through the whole game. But then he does evolve, and he turns into Garchomp. And I'm actually going to put Garchomp up into S section right next to Metagross. This guy actually also has a really good Mega Evolution. The only thing I really begrudge Garchomp for is how terrible his shiny form actually is. And if you know what I'm talking about, then you know that I mean that the blue color on him changes like almost half a shade darker in his shiny form, and that's it. And it's like, that's a petty reason to rate someone lower, but as you can see in that section, I haven't. But that's the only negative thing I really have to say about him. We also like Cynthia, the Pokemon champion Cynthia, and that's like her like main Pokemon. That's like her signature Pokemon, so we love that. Then we have Deino, and Deino, I'm gonna put Deino in B section. But Deino, he's perfectly just a Pokemon. There's nothing really negative to say about him. I've never used one, and in fact, this whole line, I've never had much to say. And in fact, I'm going to put Zweilous, who he evolves into, down into C section. And it's just because a two-headed Deino is it's been done before with other Pokemon. We've had Doduo into Dodrio, Diglett into Dugtrio, and then you got Deino into Zweilous, and it's I don't know. Deino himself was not enough to interest me in using him, and then Zweilous shows up, and it's I don't care. Whereas Gabite might have perked my interest, Metang might have perked my interest, but Zweilous, aesthetically, he's just not my jam. Then we have Hydreigon, and unfortunately, this might be my least favorite of all of the fully evolved pseudo-legendary Pokemon, quite possibly. Hydreigon, 3 heads, 2 of the heads are his hands. It's I don't know. It's unfortunate because he actually does kind of look like a legendary Pokemon, but the guy's typing, as far as I know, does not do him any favors. Dark Dragon has a lot of exploitable weaknesses in the game. He is not the best competitively, and aesthetically he suffers the same as Zweilous. Then we have Goomy, and Goomy, I'm gonna have to put Goomy down into D, unfortunately, for Goomy. While he is his own thing, I begrudge this entire line because it is just a dragon type. I saw this guy and I thought he was meant to be a poison type, and it's I get it. He's not actually a poison type. He's not meant to look like a poison type, but that's what he looks like. And it's I always forget that, and I just begrudge it for it. Is that a stupid reason? Yes. Yes, it is. But I still don't like it. It's it's literally just a blob, and it's I know a lot of Pokemon are just blobs. But it's look at Larvitar, look at Dratini, look at all of these base forms. Even Deino looks better than this because this is literally just a slug. And yes, he is kind of meant to be a slug. He turns into a snail type dude, but I don't like it. I'm sorry. Then we have Sliggoo. Sliggoo is a little better, which is I'll say this: Sliggoo is the very obvious progression from Goomy. And that's all I can really say about it. I'm certainly not compelled to use him by his appearance, not the same way that I am with, say, Gabite or with Pupitar. Pupitar is interesting. This guy is not. Then we have Goodra, and I'm actually going to do a U-turn here, and I'm going to put Goodra up into A section. Goodra, for all intents and purposes, is just a well-put-together Dragon-type Pokemon. He doesn't necessarily look like a Dragon-type Pokemon, but he's got some really heavy stats, a lot more defensive than your average pseudo-legendary, and I think that's why a lot of people might often forget that Goodra is actually supposed to be a pseudo-legendary. So, there you go. Then we have, next on this list, we have Jangmo-o. And Jangmo-o, I'm going to put Jangmo-o into B section. So he's perfectly average, probably in a better way than Deino. I like him a lot better. Just I like the little scale appearance. I like the yellow on him. It's just a better design in my opinion. I've never used one competitively. None of his line have I used, but it is what it is. And then we have Hakamo-o. I don't know how to say their names, so forgive me if I'm getting it wrong. I'm going to just put him in the B section as well. Obvious progression. It makes sense aesthetically. Same could be said about Gabite and that, is you could just have this guy without evolving him, and then it will be perfectly fine. You don't have to evolve him to have an easy win through this game. Then we have Kommo-o, and I am actually going to put Kommo-o all the way up into S section. I love his aesthetic. I have never used him, but I probably would. I like, first of all, that he is a dragon fighting type. Fighting type is my favorite type of Pokemon, so this gives a lot of love to the fighting type genre, if you will. But aesthetically, he is cool. He is obviously based on a Komodo dragon, and you can see that in the scale-like design, his color, that huge tail. There's a lot to love about this Pokemon, and it looks, especially if you compare it to the likes of, say, Goodra or others, I think Kommo-o has a little more thought put into his design for sure, and I definitely appreciate that. Then we have Dreepy. I'm going to put Dreepy in D section. Dreepy is not very interesting to me. He looks kind of boring. He looks kind of scary, actually. If Pokemon were real, I probably wouldn't want to keep one of these. They look very, very scary. Then, Dreepy evolves into Dracloak, and I'm gonna put him into C, just because, like, he is an obvious progression from Dreepy. I don't get, like, similar to Jangmo-o in that I haven't used this line at all, but, like, on an aesthetic rating, you know, like, whatever. He's okay. Like, I'm running out of things to say about these guys, because, like, a lot that you can say about one pseudo-legendary can be said about another. But then you get Dragapult, and unfortunately, I'm actually going to put him into C-section as well, next to Dracloak. What's sad about this is they are dragging Ghost types, and Ghost type is my second favorite type of Pokemon, and where my favorite typing helped Jangmo-o get to the very, very top, my second favorite type hasn't really helped Dragapult at all. In fact, I'm a little disappointed. The only, like, real ghost-like quality I can see is in, like, the wispy tail at the end there, but otherwise, his overall design is, like, not that interesting to me. I understand that he's meant to kind of be, like, the catapult Pokemon. It's just, overall, it's not what I would call a cohesive design. It's a little contrived, if you ask me. Then, lastly on this list, we revisit Sliggoo and Goodra in their Hisuian forms from Legends Arceus. And I'm going to rate Sliggoo, Hisuian Sliggoo, as a B. Just because, like, I feel like if this had been what Sliggoo just looked like, it might have aroused my interest in this Pokemon a lot more. It certainly makes more sense, especially when you get to see him, like, following you around in Legends Arceus. He looks like a snail. Like, this is kind of like, this is what made me realize he's actually meant to be a snail. Call me slow if you will, but that's literally what it took. And then we have Goodra, and it's like, it's interesting, right? Because you have Goomy, who is a slug, and then you've got Sliggoo, who in both forms is a snail. He's obviously a snail. And then you've got Goodra, and normal old Goodra is actually neither. He's clearly like a biped dragon-like thing made of the same stuff as a slug, I guess? So it's like he's neither a slug nor a snail, but he's still made of the same stuff. But then you have Hisuian Goodra, who is like, he's got a snail shell on his back, right? So it's like, I don't know how I feel about this guy. So I think I'm gonna put him in B section. I still like him, but I really don't know how I feel about this design. I really think I prefer Goodra just as Goodra. But, like, this is probably what it should have been, so I don't know. Leave comments down below telling me what you think, and about all of these decisions. In fact, tell me which ones are your favorites, and why. Are we in sync or not? If you enjoyed the video today, guys, then make sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell icon as well so you can get instant updates anytime there's a new upload, and then you don't have to miss out ever again. My name is Raggy, guys. Thank you so much for watching the video and helping this channel get bigger every day. I'll see you next time. Have a good one!